Alright there, Procrastinauts, mine's Pleborian, and welcome back to the Kerbal Space Program. Last time we were here, we took our satellite out for a little bit of a trek around the moon. Now, since then, I went off camera and went back to the moon with the Pleborian shuttle because I wanted to put it in a polar orbit. So, I didn't want to record it because you've already seen that 4 times already, me going to the moon and trying to put this bastard up here. So, I skipped it, it did its job, we now have a map of the moon. So that's good news. But before we officially kick this episode off proper, there are a couple of things I want to talk about. First off, some of the things you'll notice about around the channel. We've had a recent format change. This is because the Procrastinauts have recently been partnered with TGN. Fucking get in. So, what does that mean exactly? Well, not a lot, really. It means I'll be making a little bit more money off these videos, but that's about it. And with the TGN backing us, we should get a shit ton more views, subscribers, and all that good shit. And personally, I just want to say thank you to you guys, because without you lot coming here and viewing these videos every day, we wouldn't be able to get a partnership. So thank you very much, guys. I hope to see more those numbers keep on going up. And that's about that for TGN partnership. It'll be coming on. I mean, it's going to take about 3-4 weeks to transition all the way, but I expect to see some changes happening around the channel, quite a bit. Some big changes, hopefully, some big ass changes. The next thing I want to talk about is Kerbal Space Program itself. Now, for those of you who check the forums quite a lot, like me, who fucking lives in that place, you'll notice that the developers have put out the changelog for 0.17. Now, what does this mean for us lot? In case you guys haven't checked it, well, I can tell you for starters, we're getting new planets. Now, if I've done this right and my editing skills aren't too shit, then you should be looking at a picture of the surface of a brand new planet. I'm assuming that this is the Mars equivalent. This is just one of the many new planets that are going to be opening in 0.17. I just want to talk about this for a moment and just point out a few things. The little box you can see in the top left, they are developer tools. We don't get to play with them. That's just for achieving instant orbits and stuff like that, and just generally messing around. The little bunch of writing on the top right hand side is general orbital information, something like what MetJeb pump out. Most notably, at the bottom of that list, there is an external temperature gauge. No, not a gauge, a measurement of external temperature, which I think is looking at minus 33 degrees. Now, I've seen this on other developer pictures before in the past, but it's never been explained as to why we have an external temperature. God knows if we've got like temperature mechanics in the game already. I mean, we don't get to experience them, like such as re-entry heat or the cold, darker space and stuff like that, but it could be something to look forward to. Next thing, if I can draw your attention to the staging going on the right hand side, you'll notice that in the middle of the staging there's a little box without an icon. That means that I'm assuming in there is a brand new part, which brings us to the rocket ship in the centre. That thing doesn't have a thruster on the main tank in the centre, but we've got 4 little knobbles. Now, I can't tell what these are because the resolution of this image isn't high enough, but it looks like strut connectors or linear RCS ports, which I'm going to assume means we've got a decent sized RCS tank for the new bigger rocket pieces, which is always a good thing. What else can I show you here? Oh yes, here's another picture of that same ship landed on this brand new planet, a planet with no name for all intents and purposes. And the first thing you'll notice is the big ass moon showing its face in the background. Now, from what we know so far, that moon is tidally locked, which means it's kind of like Kerbin's moon, and it's always going to be facing the planet. But the biggest difference is just look at the fucking size of the thing. That's either a very, very, very big moon, or it's very, very close. Hell, it could be both, because we don't know the size of this new planet, but it's big enough to not be able to see the curvature of it while we're in the atmosphere, back like it was on image 1. But other features for 0.17 include tutorial missions with pre-built ships for people who are just getting into the game. There's also going to be a scenario editor, so you could pretty much give yourself an instant orbit, similar to that little tool on the first screenshot, but it's mostly used for practices. Like, you could put yourself into an orbit around one of these new planets or the moon or something, just to practice your landings and stuff like that, which I think's going to be pretty helpful. It doesn't interfere with your normal sandbox game like this thing here, so if you want to practice, that'll probably be the way to go. Other updates include some brand new parts, which I'm assuming are going to be related to interplanetary travel, and a bug fix for the Kraken. There's some more things on that patch list, but I forgot what they are. But no docking, unfortunately, which is a shame because that is the feature I want more than fucking anything. But enough about that, back to the game. Right, let's get this show on the road. Today, we kick the mission off proper to colonise the moon. For this, I'm going to be using this old beast, back from episode 4. You remember this? This was the Apollo 5. Slightly modified to have a different lander attached to the top of it. I'm not going to pull the fairings apart just to show you because it's a bit awkward and the staging messes up every time I do it. But what we're going to be using this for is getting ourselves to the moon and then using the lander itself as a mobile construction vehicle for assembling bases. The mod I'm using for this is Orbital Construction version 9.3. A link to the mod will be in the description as always, so for fuck's sake, please do not ask me in the comments section. Just go look at the description because I get a lot of that, like what mods are you using. Just look in the description of the videos. You will find each mod linked to a specific video, so go through, have a look. Look in this description for this mod. This one is interesting. It's very interesting. I think it's definitely worth a look. Only if you've got the full version of KSP Mine because it uses plugins. But initially, what we're going to be doing is we're going to launch this and we're going to send this to the moon. Another thing that I'm going to be doing today is I got an email from HGM Book asking me about various things about orbital mechanics and whatnot. He was having a bit of trouble getting to the moon, but he was using a pretty much carbon copy of the Apollo from episode 4, and his problem is that even though he was doing the lunar injection burn just as the moon poked over the surface, he was still missing it. So I'm going to put this down to a possibly too high orbit or too low orbit. I can't really tell without actually seeing how this guy does it himself, but I'm going to assume it's because of the orbit. So what I'm also going to do is I'm going to try and explain this a little bit better. Another thing you'll see in the top right hand corner is the space dock inventory. Now, the little part I've got for the MCV will allow other ships to pass by it. I think it's within 10 kilometers a ship has to be, and a ship can deliver cargo straight from one to another, and that will give us the ability to build stuff in space, which is fucking awesome if you ask me. It's definitely a good start into base building, seeing as how we don't actually have docking yet. So what can I do here? I mean, I'm perfectly set up for this moment, but I'm not going to be doing a straight shot at the moon for intensive purposes of this tutorial. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fucking rag up my thrust all the way to the top. I'm not going to do the SAS on because I don't actually have one. I'm going to get this show on the road. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, launch. Alright, a little bit shaky on the launch, but never mind. Alright, first thing I'm going to be doing is turning down my TV because that's a little bit loud. And the next thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be positioning myself to about, I think it's a 65 degrees inclination on the 90 degree heading. Now, while we're going up, like this line here, the 90 line, this is your heading line. You can see this here, right here. Now, and these other little numbers here, the inclination, as you can see now, my ship's just about verging on an inclination of 60, but it's fighting to go a bit lower, so I'm going to have to sort that out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go up on this inclination of 60, 65 till about there, and then I'm going to go all the way down to this, which I think is the 45 degree inclination as soon as I get into the thin part of the atmosphere, and I'll slowly work it down from there. What this is doing is it's going to build up our orbit before we actually get out of the atmosphere, which will help in reducing the orbital height. So I'm hoping to cap this off at about 200,000 meters above the surface, both sides. I mean, it might not be perfect, but I never get those things perfect. Sometimes I do, but it has to be pretty good. So as you can see, I've just gone into the thin part of the atmosphere and I've moved all the way down to 45 degrees. This is a perfect time to check your map and get that out. Very important you get that out, otherwise you can't control your ship and you don't have a clue where it's going. So let's have a look at the orbit now. We're at 33,000 feet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get myself out of this part of the atmosphere, and about halfway here I'm going to bring it lower to about here. In fact, I might do this a little bit before. I might do this as soon as it goes in. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start doing this now. And this will start building up our orbit further away from us, rather than going up too tall. So, I mean, we're taking a good speed of about 1,200, so yeah, we are definitely picking up. So, before we even get out of the atmosphere, I'm going to do this now. So, if your speed gets about over 1,500 meters, you want to go below this and start poking yourself back towards the floor. What this is called a Hofmann transfer burn, and what it should do is, if I get this right, you can see the height still going. Oh, there we are. We're going back down again. If you can get this in the right position, you can have your orbit perfectly level. And as you can see, the orbit's going to build itself up into a full arc in a second, and we've not even reached 200,000 meters. Oh no, speak to the devil. 221,000. So that ain't so bad. Now, next stage, seeing as how my rocket's now going to rotate freely as this fucking thing does, I'm going to jettison them. Hopefully it doesn't glitch out my rocket too much. One thing HGM book asked me is timing of staging. Now the reason I'm doing this now is because the bottom stage has served its purpose. I don't need it no more. I can do everything I need to on this stage. I mean, technically, if you really wanted to, you could keep this stage, but I'm just going to fuck it off, because at the end of the day, I don't like space litter, and I want it to go crashing down back to the Earth. So we're going to jettison this. I'm going to give myself a little bit of thrust. Right, wicked. So that's good enough for me, and if it's good enough for me, it's good enough for you. Fuck knows how many times you've heard me say that now. So next stage, we're going to get ourselves to the Apo. I know I've explained this 1,000 times as well, but this is very important. These markers on the map, this one here, the one with the horizontal lines and the one vertical line, is the prograde. Now what this does, if you accelerate on the prograde, it will speed you up, and if it speeds you up, you also get a chance to be thrown outwards. Now imagine that the planet is a vacuum cleaner, which sounds a bit weird, and it's constantly sucking you into it. The faster you go, the more chance you are of escaping that vacuum cleaner, and that's all there is to it. that's all I can say on that one. But this is the prograde, and the other one at the opposite side is the retrograde. This will always slow you down, and in turn, because of the vacuum becoming more powerful than the ship, you'll be sucked down to the planet. So speed up equals outwards, slow down equals sucked in. So remember that prograde and retrograde will save your lives, especially if you build out an orbit too far. All you would have to do is stop your burn on the prograde, switch, and then just reduce the orbit like you would as you were extending it out. Simples. Or at least I tried to make it sound simple. Like I said, I'm dog shit explaining things. But yeah, we're going to carry on speeding up to the Apo, and we're going to get here. And this is where you're going to see the effects of burning on the prograde. So I'm going to get myself nice and centered on that line as I can. I'm just going to give it full thrust. Now, as you can see, the thrust pushes the periapses. If you do it, whoa, God, I panicked a little bit. So what have we got here? 233. I can't quite read that there. 233, 220. So I mean, that's not exact, but it should be good enough. 222, 233. Now I'd call this an acceptable orbit to start hitting the moon at. If you're anything above 300,000 meters and you try and go for the moon the same way I do, chances are you're going to miss it. Likewise, if you're anything less than 100,000 meters, you also might just go too far ahead of the moon and have to slow down from that. That's a little bit easier to correct yourself with if you do that, but that's not something you want to do. The more fuel you have, the better. So now, with this said and done, what I am going to do is I'm just going to quickly go to the retrograde. The way you can tell this one is that this, where the prograde has horizontal lines, this has like diagonal lines, and it also has a little X in the middle of it, but you can't see that now because it's covering up the white lines. But if I just go onto the center of this, I'll just give you a quick demonstration of what it does. As you can see, the speed's going down, vacuum cleaner's got more strength than us, and it's sucking us in. So to fix that, to correct that, I'd just go back round to the prograde, do the exact opposite of what I've just done to repair it. If I can get myself back on there. It probably is worth mentioning that that you should put a SAS on your vehicle. I'm like I said, I haven't got one, so I'm having to do all this manually. But that's not a problem. I've done this manually enough times to know what I'm doing. So here we go. This is where we're going to get ready for our lunar or mooner injection burn, whatever you want to call it. So we're going to get ourselves around to the same position. What we're going to be doing is, like, if you try and look at the orbit now. You can plan ahead for this. I imagine we'll be seeing the moon poke up about here. But chances are when I actually get there, I won't see anything. But that's perfect. That gives me time. Especially if you're building a bigger rocket than this. I mean, this is really small. It's really manoeuvrable. But if you're building a bigger rocket, it can take quite a while to spin the bastard around. Even if you've got several RCS thrusters on there, it can still take a while to spin around, and by that point you could probably miss the moon. It's too high in the sky, and that's never a good thing. So same thing again. Look at my height now. I'm at 226,000 meters, and I'm centered on the prograde, and I can just about see the moon. So I'm gonna try and keep this as centered as I can. Although you see my rocket wiggling about a little bit, it doesn't have to be bob on perfect. Unless you're really going straight round here or straight round there, you're not going to fuck this up. I think if I could put a number to it as well, that say if there we go. I'm gonna pause that for a second. But if I could put a number to it, say if the moon is at 12 o'clock, you're probably going to be launching at about 11ish, 10 past 11ish, quarter past 11ish. If that makes any sense whatsoever to you. I think the degrees are 65, but then again I could be getting that confused with Minmus. I think Minmus might be 65 degrees to the left, depending on which way you're going around. Because we go in a anti-clockwise direction around the night line, I imagine it would have to be the opposite side. But what we're going to do now, as you can see, we've got the little yellow patch conics line to say that we are 1 million meters above the surface. Now what we can do here is, if we carry on thrusting on the prograde, I forgot this is glitched. In the next patch it might not be broken as much, but shit. Right, this is now we've gone too far, and this is a perfect opportunity to show you how to correct it. Simple, retrograde, bit of thrust, and patch conics is broken. But normally what you would do is you would be carrying on accelerating, and the periapsis that will be round the moon will carry on going smaller. Eventually it will disappear to zero, and you could just slam yourself right into that. Not too bad at all. I mean, if you've got enough fuel like this craft does have, you could probably just decelerate on the way down and land in one big go. So as you can see, the patch conics is going a bit crazy here, and it's not too brilliant. It might be a little bit hard in this patch to use the patch conics. This patch and the patch. But enough about that. Now we've actually got to the moon, we're going to get to the periapsis. Now as you can see, orbit shooting off that way. This is effectively the same as if you were shooting off out of Kerbin's SOI, like out here or something. So what do we do to sort that out? Easy. We go to the retrograde and slow ourselves down and let the gravity force of the moon pull us in. Simples. Now I'm going to be choosing a specific landing spot in regards to the mod that I've got installed. The orbital construction mod is a little bit funny with like structural placement when you actually build stuff to be transferred up into space. So it can often pop in the ground. The best workaround I've found for this so far is to quite literally plonk the ship here. Because the moon's tidally locked and it's always facing that direction, your mobile construction vehicle will always be facing Kerbin. That means you're between the launch pad and the moon, you'll always have a direct line of sight, which will stop any construction that you're sending up there colliding with the moon. So important safety tip, if you're going to be using this mod, try to get it on this side. I mean, I don't know if it works on the other sides properly. I've always had failures when putting it anywhere else other than where I'm going to put it, but you're welcome to try, but don't say I didn't tell you so. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just a mod. It's never meant to be perfect, but it's good enough. It's definitely good enough. I know I'm not the only person who's interested in featuring it in the Let's Play series. I know there's one other person who I have recently been accused of copying by some fucking dirty scumbags on my channel. So screw them. I'm going to use it anyway. In fact, I was considering actually going to this YouTuber and asking for the craft file to his grunt, and I was just going to say to it, listen, people are going to be accusing me of copying you, at least let me copy you full pelt, just for shits and gigs, just to see if he'd agree. I don't think he would, but it was a funny idea, and it'd wind up those arrogant bastards who are accusing me of copying shit when I'm clearly not. I only used the satellite because I wanted to find the monoliths, not because I just thought, oh yeah, someone else did it, so I've got to do it. Do you know how boring it was to use that fucking thing? Unbelievable. Unbelievably boring. I had to wait 4 fucking hours for it to map the moon. And even then, I lost the map file and had to do it all over again. God fucking damn it. But I need to stop stressing. I need to take a sip of my Monster Ripper, wherever it is. Yep, that's the one. I need to get myself all ready for landing. Now, how do we do this? I don't think I need to explain it. How do we slow ourselves down? Any of you want to give me the answer? That's right, you at the back. Retrograde. Gold star for you. So, what I am going to do is I'm going to bring myself to this side of the moon, the side we want to be landing on. About here. So, if I can get my position in this crater here, I think that would be a good place. I mean, what I can do, seeing as how I've got this with me, because I completely forgot that I did, where are we on the map? Kerbal moon. As you can see, here's the moon. It's mostly done with a few bits here and there that I'm missing. But for the most part, you can see these monoliths here. So actually, I'm right above one, but I'm assuming that is going to be a monolith. I need to double check this. Can I see anything on the ground? Get out the way. You know what? No, that was a piece of fluff on my TV. I can't see an arch down there, so we could be looking at a monolith site. So you know what? Where are we? You know what? I'm going to bring myself down right here. That's perfect. So the first thing we need to do, get gone. And we're going to retrograde and slow ourselves down. We're going to slow ourselves down to about 100. We've got more than half a tank of fuel. So this landing is going to be nice and smooth. We've got plenty to work with here. I mean, I'm just under 50,000 meters, so I've got a long way to fall. And I have just noticed that in the background there, that is a moon arch. And there also seems to be a few other things going off as well, but I think that just could be terrain glitchiness. That isn't. That's definitely a moon arch. In fact, that could be the one where I plonked the first legacy base and lost it to gravity. Bad memories indeed. Nope, that's still that same piece of fluff on my TV. I was going to say, Jesus fucking Christ, I'm going to wipe that off. Oh, it's not a piece of fluff, it's some sort of dirty mark. Ugh. Get rid. But no, right, this is if you, like I said, if you're using this as a tutorial, this is the hardest part coming up now. It's the physical landing. Although it doesn't seem that hard, you have to be really careful with how quick you're falling down, basically. You could run out of fuel too high. I can't really explain it too well. Just be fucking careful as you're doing this, because you do not want to be going too fast as you're flying at the floor. In the case of this, I can be going at a decent speed. It only took me 2 seconds of burn to get from 400 down to 100, so I'm not phased about that. But I've seen people before now, they've gone flying at this bastard too fast, and it never ends well. Unless, I'm not going to tell you the control scheme for this, but I'm just going to quickly bring this out. Pause it, look at the options, go. Right, yes. Little cheaty thing for you there. That is no mod, it's part of the game, it's the debugging console. Go, if you want to use it, go find out. I find it cheap as fuck and only use it for practicing stuff. But yeah, I thought I'd show that off because I only recently discovered it, and I think it's quite cool. So what we're doing here is, because we're on the retrograde, that is doing what, people? That's right, guy at the back again, slowing us down. Retro slowing us down. I've seen people do this before where they'll be pointing the completely wrong direction, and the effect of which will actually be speeding them up to the floor. So always remember, retro is the one to go for. Another thing about what you're trying to do here is you want the retro marker literally pointing straight up at this dot right here at the very top of north. I mean, as you can see here, our rocket's pointing perfectly up. It's the same position that the rocket would start in, right at the very top. And as you can see, this is the night line which I travelled down. But, you know, I kind of lost my train of thought there. Shit. That's what drinking Monster does to you. It fills you with too much energy. But we're starting to get quite close to the lunar surface now, and I mean, we're going to reach about 100 before I actually engage the final burn, before we actually ditch this. So we're getting closer, closer still, closer still. If you try this with MechJeb, you think this is ruthless, you should see what fucking MechJeb does. Right, that's enough, I've had enough, and I'm going to reach 100 in time, so... Right, thank you. We're going to... Thank you. Yep, we're going to ditch that stage, and we're going to take this over. And... I don't know why, but it's tilting in a very strange way, and it's making me nervous. So all I'm going to do now is I'm just pressing H on the RCS button to thrust right down, and this will give me a controlled burn to land with. Hopefully that rocket that I've just ditched won't do what I did on yesterday's practice recording and bounce straight back up and twat me in the arse or something. But I think it's been destroyed. It looks like it's been destroyed. So if it's good enough for me, it's good enough for you lot. Alright, we're coming down a bit fast, but we're getting there. We're getting there. Alright, can you take me to... This thing can hit the floor, I think, about a casual 10 because of the suspension, but I'm not going to even entertain that option after what happened on Minmus. I nearly lost the fucker. And the last thing I want is to lose it. We've come so far, done so much... Oh, sounds like a rocket just exploded. Alright, there you go. Plomp. So perfect, that was a fucking lot of effort. I didn't do much explaining as to what I was doing at the last bit. I was concentrating more than anything. And you know what? The rocket did not explode. What the shit is this? Let's go have a look. One thing I've got to be careful of is I do not want to be tipping this thing over. Switch the lights on. And we're off. As you can see, our little radar at the top doing its job, having a good old scan of the situation. We can see that we are very next to a monolith, so that's good news, that is. I'm liking that. Let's investigate the crash. Right, handbrake on for me. SAS off, and we're going to get Jebediah Curtin. He's going to have a quick investigate of the situation. Make sure I don't fall over. Oof. Right. Walking is for pussies. RCS pack is the way forward. So, something exploded on this. It wasn't the thruster. It wasn't... It might have been the fairings, actually, because I don't see them anywhere. But then again, I did jettison them quite far away. Ah, that's what went up. It was the decoupler. The decoupler hit the floor and exploded, because it's missing from there. I suppose that makes sense. Alright, back to your pod. You've got work to do, you little fool. So, I think what we're going to do with this kind of tutorial... Oh shit. Fucking, with this kind of tutorial concluded on how to get to the moon, I hope it helps for people who are still having trouble. I don't even know if I've explained this good enough, but with a bit of luck, it should shed a bit of light on there for you. So, Jeb's going to... Oh, Jeb's going to bang his head on the moon rover. And that's about it. So yeah, so I hope this episode has been a little bit of light shed. I hope it's going to clear up things with this whole me copying the Winter Owl business, because this is where me and his series are going to differ massively. And I also hope I've got you guys excited for the next patch. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, leave a like. If you're feeling fruity, leave a comment, and if you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button, and I shall catch you all in a bit.